Hey everybody, today's July 7th, and today I want to look at the price of Bitcoin, and I wanted to ask whether or not Bitcoin has bottomed, right? Has Bitcoin finally bottomed after going sideways for months now, or are we going to see much more downside to come? Before I answer this question, please read the disclaimer, and you can pause this video as you read it. Okay, so as you probably are aware, in the last 3 months, Bitcoin has been in basically a downtrend / sideways pattern. It's very boring, right? We're basically holding support at 30,000, which is a critical level. Talked about how this Fibonacci support level was held when we had our first correction back in January of this year. And then we went up higher, but we broke these critical support level, and so we saw a huge plunge, right? Not only below that, but also below our long-term moving average, this 200-day simple moving average, this blue line, right? So right now we are going sideways, trapped below the 200-day moving average, and also below or above the Fibonacci support levels. And these are both very important levels to watch, right? Why is the blue level, the 200-day simple moving average, important? Because in our last bull run, we held this moving average since the start in late 2015 all the way to late 2017, right? So this entire bull run, we held above this blue line, the 200-day simple moving average, right? But right now, we've not only broken below, but we've been below for over a month now. So the more we stay below, the worse it is going to get, right? The worse it's probably going to get. So we really need to not only break above, but at least at a bare minimum, make progress towards the blue line, right? Towards the 200-day simple moving average, which right now is around 44,000. So obviously there's $10,000 to go to the upside. So we really need to start breaking out soon, right? Because Bitcoin is at the bare minimum, it has to hold 30,000, right? I said that if we don't hold 30,000, we're probably going to plunge down to 20,000, which is our next strong support level, right? Not only technically speaking, we cultivated resistance here and it flipped to support when we broke through back in late December, but also this is our next Fibonacci support level, right? And there's really not a lot of support based on previous technicals, besides maybe like 25,000, but that's not really strong, right? We didn't really stay here for very long. So if we do break below 30,000, we might see a nice bounce on 25,000 before plunging down to 20,000, which probably will hold that strong support level if we break below 30,000. But right now we are making higher lows in at least the short term, right? And we have this really small ascending triangle, but we want to see it finally break out and at least match this previous high over here, right? And then we can talk about whether we can break through and then perhaps pull back and then break above, right? Above this blue line, which is really the next critical resistance level, right? So we have two critical resistance levels, this blue line, which is at 44,000, but also this Fibonacci's resistance level, right? Over here at 47,000, which held support once, twice, and but we unfortunately broke through the third time. So these two levels below 50,000 is critical resistance levels. So at the bare minimum, we want Bitcoin to at least break out and try to break above 40,000, which is our previous resistance level, right? So I think Bitcoin needs to make us move soon. Otherwise, the bears are going to come in and there's just going to be more pressure to the downside. And we don't want to keep retesting this 30,000 level, because the more we test support or even resistance level, the more likely we are to break through, whether it's to the downside or to the upside, right? So we really need Bitcoin to make a move within the next week or two, because we already had three monthly red candles, right? And we talked about how in the bigger picture, in our massive bull run, years, 2013 and 2017, right? We never had more than 2 consecutive red candles. We already had 3, and we really don't want Bitcoin to close a 4th consecutive red candle. Otherwise, last time, usually when we have this many red candles, it's when we're in a bear market, right? 2018 and 2014. So we really need bulls to step in this month and push the price up higher towards 40,000, and at least towards 40,000. Try to break above, and of course, stay above the 200-day, which is absolutely crucial in a bull market, right? So what I talked about in our last video is Bitcoin in a bear market. I said that technically we're not in a bear market because we are still above our weekly 50-weekly moving average, which in the past has signaled the start of a bear market once we broke below, but we're still above, right? If we look closely, not only have we found strong support above the silver line, but we also found strong support above our Fibonacci support level. So as you can look closely, we did dip below a couple weeks ago, below the silver line when Bitcoin went below 30,000. But of course, the bulls stepped in and pushed the price up higher. But what we want to see now is we want to see the bulls not only hold 30,000, but push the price up higher because we don't want to keep hanging and going sideways. Now, going sideways is not necessarily a bad thing because what we're doing is we're taking supply out the market every time it comes down and the bulls come in. And usually we have these big breakouts when there's times where it gets really boring and there's low volatility, right? So this was like about 3 months of just going sideways before we broke up higher. Then we had about a month and a half going sideways before it broke up higher. So what we want to see is we want to see the bull step in. You know, we might go out sideways for a little bit while, but we want to see the price break up higher, right? And so something we talked about is a bullish divergence, which I would noticed a couple of videos ago, where we had a bearish divergence earlier this year where the price went up, our oscillators, our MACD, our RSI went down, and that signaled distribution or exhaustion from the buyers and distribution from the sellers, right? So the price was going up, you see how the volume was going down, so there weren't enough buyers coming in. So the people who were buying were just being sold to by the smart money, the whales, right? And then we saw this bearish divergence play out with this huge 50% drawdown. And now I talked about in a couple videos ago, in June 28, how the price has been going down, but now our oscillators are going up. And we're seeing a lot more volume now, but we want to see more volume, right? We want to see more volume come in. We want to see more buyers stepping in, right? MACD is still trending up, which is good, right? We want to see it cross towards positive territory because we're still in negative territory. We want to see more green, bigger green histogram bars, signaling more support and momentum from the buyers. Also, RSI, we've been in this downtrend for a long time, right? And we really need to break this downtrend and go up a lot higher. Start making higher. We are making higher lows right now, right? We are making higher lows over here, but we need to start making higher highs, right? We need to break this downtrend that we've been in for many months now, and we need buyers to step in. And volume is a lot higher than it was here, but we're starting to wane a little bit. We want to see the volume pick up, and we want to see more buyers come in and step in and push the price up higher, right? So I do think that the probability, as long as we stay above 30,000, right? As long as we stay above 30,000, and as long as we keep having this bullish divergence play out, I do think that the probability of us having bottom is a lot higher than us going down a lot lower. But we need to see bull step in soon, right? We have this small ascending triangle, like I just said, but we want to see a breakout, and at least we want to see bulls at least fight to push the price towards 40,000 at the very minimum, right? And of course, the next best thing is to break above this blue line at 44,000, which is our 200-day simple moving average, the long-term moving average, which I just demonstrated is very important in a bull market, right? We don't want to stay below this line. We've already been staying below this line over a month now. We want to get back above this blue line and continue up higher, and that will basically strengthen our thesis that this is just a mid-cycle top and that we are still in a long-term bull market, right? Long-term bull market. But we really need buyers to step in soon. Now let's look at a major cause of this, besides Elon Musk pulling or retracting his statement that he would allow Tesla to accept Bitcoin as payment, is of course mining crackdown in China. China is basically banning and shutting down miners right now, and they're going after exchanges right now. But an important thing is that because they're shutting down miners, the hash rate has been falling. And usually when the hash rate falls, that the price of Bitcoin falls, right? Because the more hash rate are, the more secure the network is, and there's just more miners processing transactions, making Bitcoin work and making the security stronger, right? So the fact that the hash rate's been dropping, we can look at the hash rate. And by the way, you can see here, April 14th, right? This is what our peak hash rate, April 14th. Look what happened on April 14th. April 14th is when we made our all-time high. So it's not a coincidence that we not only did the hash rate peak here, but also the price peaked here. And from there, the hash rate has been falling, and the price has been following as well. But look here, right now we have a temporary bounce, but we want to see this be the low. We don't want this to be another temporary bounce and then continue down lower like we saw here or here, right? We want this to be the low, and as long as the hash rate continues to recover, that could be a good sign. It could be a good sign that the Chinese miners have finally relocated to countries outside of China and are setting up again to add more mining power to the network. It could also be a positive sign that other competitors, for example, Riot Blockchain, Marathon Digital Holdings, American miners that I personally am invested in. Look at how since May 13th, right? May 13th, Riot and Mara have been basically going up, and they've been outperforming Bitcoin. This is up 50%, right? Right, that's Marathon. Riot is up from the low 70%. So they've been doing very well, even though Bitcoin has been basically going sideways. So the miners have been outperforming Bitcoin. Why? Because now that there's less competition from China, China being in the past months before the crackdown, more than 60% of the mining hash rate, the share of the hash rate, right, around the world. Now that the hash rate is being redistributed globally, there's less competition from competitors, and they're going to get more of the market share of the hash rate. So that's why the competitors in the mining industry they're doing well right now. Like Riot and Mara have been outperforming Bitcoin in the last month, actually more than in the last month. So that's also another positive sign, is that now that we're getting more global distribution, not only is this good for Bitcoin in the long term, right? We talked about this in the last video, how this, I think, is going to be short-term pain in the price, but in the long term, it's actually good for Bitcoin because it makes it more decentralized. We don't want there to be so much hash rate centralized in one country, right? Because that increases the chance of collusion between miners if they're in the same country. But now we're distributed globally more evenly. It's a lot harder for miners to, collude together to manipulate the network, attack the network. So overall, this is short-term pain for the price, but long-term, I think it's going to be good for Bitcoin as a whole. Not only the price, but just Bitcoin as a whole, as a network, as a payment processing, as a currency, as a system of transactions on transaction network. And yeah, so that's Bitcoin in the short and intermediate term. So let's look at some of the indicators that in the macro indicators, right? So we talked about this in our last video, how I think that right now Bitcoin is there has really not been any signal that this is a market cycle top, right? We talked about 4-year cycles. 2013 was our last bull market peak, and then 4 years later, 2017. So obviously 2021 is probably likely, if we look at the past, and the past doesn't always repeat, but it does rhyme, right? History doesn't always repeat, but it does often rhyme. That's a famous saying. So if we look at the past, we can see that in the past, 2013, we had these signal of a top, right? When the price went above this orange line and into the shaded orange/red area. And right now, and this is 2017, right? Same thing. But right now, we haven't even broken above this band, right? So this has all the makings of a mid-cycle top. This is starting to look more like a mid-cycle correction before we go a lot higher. And the good news is that if this is to be a mid-cycle correction, as I predict it will be, these bands, as the longer Bitcoin consolidates, moves sideways, these bands will continue up higher, right? And it's just going to be a higher ceiling, a higher top, potential top, right? Because not only is this ceiling at 97,000, but the price historically has broken above. So this is signaling that the price will likely go above 100,000 if this is to be a mid-cycle correction and we are to continue up higher for the rest of the year, right? Same thing with Pi cycle top indicator. Pi cycle top indicator accurately called the mid-cycle top here. And of course, we had a correction, but it is possible for 2 crosses to happen in 1 year. Like we had that in 2013 here, where we had a cross in April, which of course we also had a cross in April this year. So is that a coincidence? And then we basically had a plunge of 80% over here, but which is not as bad as our plunge as 50, which is worse actually. Sorry, which is worse than our plunge of 55% over here of this year, and then recovered from 80% drawdown into another all-time high above 1,000 before the next cross in December of 2013, right? So it is possible we might see this might be the bottom that we're looking at right now, and we might see the price go up a lot higher. And now that Bitcoin has been going sideways for a while, these bands have actually been stressed apart, and the longer it is apart, when the price actually eventually crosses higher, maybe above 100,000, goes up a lot higher, it's going to take a lot longer for these bands to cross in and cross bearishly, right? Because right now the green line is above the orange line. And usually when the green line is above the orange line, the price is going up, right? The price is going up. And it's when the orange line crosses above the green line that we see the dotted line signaling the potential top, right? Which in the past has actually accurately, and we just saw right now that this can predict the future, right? That if we just listen to this, we got out here, then we've been safe, right? Of course, I'm going to admit that in my previous video, I was hopeful this would be a false positive, and this would just be wrong, but I was wrong. So I'll admit that I was wrong, and really I'm going to be using this indicator to get out. If this is a mid-cycle correction and we do go up a lot higher, I'll be using this signal in this indicator to signal the next exit above 100,000. But the good news is the green line is above the orange line, which is bullish, right? But what we need to see is we need to see the price go above these, like at least the orange line, right? Because when we had a cross and the price plunged below, it had to go above the orange line to signal an entry. See, above the orange line to signal entry. If it goes below and stays below the orange line, like over here, 2018 and 2014, the higher the chances that this is actually signaling a bear market. So we want to see the price go up a lot higher, a lot faster now, and cross above the orange line, and that could be a safe signal to re-enter the market possibly, and that we can go higher, a lot higher. Pull multiplier, of course, we got up just below the overbought territory, which is this dotted, shaded orange area. In previous bull cycle tops, we actually broke into this band, and that signaled that we were overbought, right? But not only are we not broken through, we're actually down to this oversold band, which is this green shaded area. So the last time we had something like that, we're in these bear market territories, these bear market lows, right? And of course the pandemic crash. So this could be a good oversold signal to get back in, because we're nowhere near overbought in terms of market cycle top. In fact, this looks more like a mid-cycle correction, right? Like we saw over here. This very close to here, we're like middle of 2017, right? Of course, we didn't go all the way down here, but I think that, but at the same time, there wasn't a massive banning on the miners in China, right? I think a large part of why we've drawn down so much is because there's actual action happening out of China right now. But of course, global redistribution of hash rate power is actually a good thing for the long-term health of Bitcoin. So I do think this is a good thing going forward, and we're just seeing short-term pain right now in the price. Golden ratio multiplier, of course, we haven't even printed a dotted line yet for us to hit. We only went up to this purple line, right? So in the past, when we hit the purple line, we had major resistance pullbacks, right, in the past. So of course, hitting this purple line is not surprising. It's just that we've pulled back quite a bit, right? But again, a lot of that has to do with China banning the miners and the global redistribution of hash power, which should resolve itself in the next coming weeks to months, right? And that's ultimately going to be good for the price of Bitcoin going forward. So nowhere near overbought right now, right? In fact, we're oversold, touching this orange line, right? But we want to be careful because in bear markets, we broke below the orange line. So as long as we stay above the orange line, we should be good. So that's why I'm saying that it's really important that the buyers step in and quickly push the price up higher, right? Because we're getting close to bear market territory. We're like skating on thin ice right now, but there's still hope that this could be the bottom and we can go up a lot higher, right? And there's really nothing in the indicators I've talked about so far that have signaled that we've hit a bull cycle top, right? Much of these indicators are telling me that we're in we've hit a mid-cycle top and that there's still more upside to come. Okay, so before we go to Z-score, just to finish up with the golden ratio multiplier, like I said, when this dotted line prints, we should get the dotted line above 100,000. So if the price does recover, go up higher, we're gonna hit. It's gonna signal a sell signal above 100,000 probably. So going on to Z-score, of course, Z-score not only hit the red shaded area, but also penetrated, right? And each of these times it happened, it was a good signal to sell. And this was the market cycle top, right? We're nowhere near, we haven't even penetrated. We just hit this and then pull back down, right? So similarly to the past, it does seem like it's following a similar pattern to mid-cycle corrections of our last bull cycles, right? Like 2017. Stock to flow usually it signals overbought market cycle top when it penetrates this red line, right? And it goes up and then it pulls back into a bear market. We haven't even broken above this line yet, which is around 90,000. So I think one of the reasons why we have such a strong drawdown besides China is that we went up too quickly, right? We went up way too quickly, whereas in 2017 we took our time. Even 2013 we did go up quickly, but we had a nice correction and then we finished the rest of the year. So I do think this is going to look more like 2013, or we have two tops, right? But we have one in April of this year, just like we had it in April of 2013, right? Coincidence again, maybe. December of 2013 could be signal. We could, if this does follow like April, it could be also. We could also be topping in December of this year. Who knows? We'll have to see. Of course, we look at the stock to flow model. Down here, we are overbought. I'm sorry, oversold, right? Look how low we are compared. We're even lower than some bear market territories, right? So red is when we're overbought, and we did get there. We did get there earlier this year. Like I said, we went up way too quickly, and so we signal a red signal to sell, which we didn't signal in 2017 until we went parabolic, right? So there's still a lot of room to the upside. So all these indicators to me are signaling that we're in a mid-cycle correction and that we have likely reached the bottom of this correction, and there's so much room to go up a lot higher, right? Nothing on these indicators is telling us that we've reached the bull cycle top, right? There's nothing telling us that, nothing is signaling that we've hit, like, euphoria and that, oh, we're about to enter a bear market right now. Even the fear and greed index has been in these low levels for a long time now, like 28, right? We've been in these low levels for a long time, and but we are starting to see the fear and greed index starting to go up a little bit. So it could signal that we're about to have a breakout soon. So yeah, so that's it for Bitcoin today. I am hopeful, and I do think that the probability that we have bottomed is a lot higher than the opposite, right? I do think that at a bare minimum, we want to see Bitcoin hold 30,000, which is this Fibonacci support level. And as long as we continue to hold this level, and even if we go sideways, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because in the past when we went sideways, we saw volatility go down, and we saw buyers basically just absorbing supply slowly, right? And then we saw a huge move up, right? Same thing here. Sometimes these moments when people aren't paying attention are the best times to buy, like historically, right? So I think people are getting bored of Bitcoin right now, but it might even go sideways for a while before perhaps breaking up a lot higher, right? But usually these are times where you want to watch the market, because things can happen when you least expect it, and you want to be prepared, right? I'm not saying that this is guaranteed to go up. I'm just saying, like, the probability, in my experience trading Bitcoin, I do think that the probability of us having bottom is a lot higher than not. Now, of course, we want to look at the bearish case in case I am wrong and be prepared for that. Like I said in my last video, if we don't hold 30,000, I do think we're going to plunge to 20,000, and I have positions ready to short if that is the case. But for now, as long as we hold 30,000, as long as we keep making higher lows, right? We haven't made higher highs yet in a while, but we want to see, that's why I want to see the bulls come in and push the price up higher, right? And break out of this triangle, even if it is a small triangle, you know? We want to start making some progress, because the more we move sideways and trend lower towards 30,000, the more likely we are to break below. So I don't want to see us visit these levels again. I want to see us move sideways, trend higher, or at least have a strong break higher towards 40,000, right? 40,000, and then break above this blue line around 44,000, which is our 200 days simple moving average, our long-term moving average, right? Once we break above the 40,000, the probability of us continuing up higher is a lot higher than us entering a bear market. So that's it for Bitcoin. I'll update you as the price action develops. Who knows, we can see this go sideways for a while. It could be kind of boring, but hopefully we do at least defend 30,000 and continue up higher. But we're going to have to see how the price action develops, and I'll update you as we see the price move forward, and hopefully we see it push up higher. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it useful, helpful, informative, please like this video, leave a comment below, and subscribe for updates. Thank you all for your support, and have a great day.